Remember, it is on record, you responded back in writing. This was on 17th of April 2023, where you even indicated every aspect of law that indeed it is the role of county governments to be able to be the custodian of purposes of planning. I recall, Your Excellency, I even wrote to the Office of the Attorney General on 15th of June 2023. By 22nd of June 2023, the Attorney General confirmed that yes, indeed, the role of county governments is vital in matters of planning, regulating the whole of how a county is meant to be developed. Now, I want to give a genesis of those who were in our positions before us, by purposes of nothing else. A couple of 100 meters from here, Your Excellency, a couple of 100 meters from here, lies a property belonging to the judiciary. That property today is as good as a waste of taxpayers' money. Almost R1 billion was invested by the judiciary because the county government at that time, the tiff and tough between the judiciary, no one took responsibility of even going ahead and saying that we need to be able to look at the structure. Is it going to be safe for the users? Today that building cannot be used because it has cracks. That building cannot be able to be used because it is a danger. And the current Chief Justice wrote to me and told me, can we be able, because we've realized constitutionally and legally, you are the ones who are actually mandated to be able to tell us whether this is actually going to be fit. So years rewinded later on, we ended up doing our own views on what needs to be done to that particular property. Another example, which I'm hoping we do not reach to those levels, by virtue of just having a sit down with a number of the other state corporations, and then you come to hear that one state corporation wants to build houses not very far away from that property is another that needs to be able to build gas tanks. The only person who can be able to be in between to moderate and to be able to now say that, look, we need to be able to have a distance between houses and gas and any other petroleum or hazardous buildings that are going to be put up is the county government. And all we are saying, it does not even have to be about bureaucracy, because we've even given in writing and said if in 72 hours we don't give you a comments, it means it is as good as already passed. It does not even have to be about money, because if it is something that is funded by donor agencies, all you have to do is say that this is something funded by donor agencies, we internally process it and say that we are not even charging you for this. But I'm repeating again, the importance of regulating by county governments. We are hoping that we will be able to work with the regulatory agencies in these matters, from EPRA to Kenya Roads, but to anyone else that is involved in these matters, so that we can be able to have a situation where we're not necessarily just allowing things to be able to be put up that are going to be a danger now, but also things not to be a danger tomorrow as well. And I want it to be on record as a county government, and I probably speak, I believe I speak on behalf of all the other governors as well who took a similar stance. IBEC as well took a similar stance, Your Excellency, that we need to have some form of regulations when it comes to be able to do all these things. And lastly, Your Excellency, this is something that we want to pass at our County Assembly. I'm looking for a legal way to be able to approve this. We are still yet to find a breakthrough. And hopefully with your support, we might be able to get that breakthrough. We have one simple unwritten law. We're yet to be able to put it into law yet, but it's very simple. Please make sure when you're in Mombasa, please finish all your per diem and all your allowances here in Mombasa. When you go back home, go back. If need be, we will lend you some money for transport to go back. Lakini ile pesa mulilipwa, tafadhilini mumalize hapa hapa Mombasa. Asante sana na mubarikiwe. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for Mheshimiwa Governor. Let me take this opportunity now to welcome the Chief of Staff and the Head of Public Service to come and make a few remarks, and thereafter invite our chief guest to talk to us. Welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary in charge of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Your Excellency, the Governor of Mombasa, Chairman of Kenya School of Government, Principal Secretaries present, CEO of Kenya School of Government, CEOs present, Chairman, staff of Executive of the President, members of the fourth estate, good morning. Good morning. Your Excellency, today we are gathered here in order to take stock of what each and every regulatory institution is doing. And we want to thank you very much for finding time. I know time is a very limited resource when it comes to the activities that you are always carrying out. And we thank you very much for actually deciding to set aside 2-3 hours to come and speak to us. We chose your office, Your Excellency, and particularly yourself, because of the role you play in government in coordination and ensuring that government function seamlessly. And therefore, we thought your presence here will set a pace, will show direction, will align all our roles and activities in order for the government to function efficiently and effectively. And we thank you for really finding time to come here. We want also to thank the governor of Mombasa. This governor is always ready to receive us. He is a team player and he is always ready to share and always ready to help wherever we need his assistance. We want to thank you. Whenever we come here, you always give us time in your office. You always avail yourself to welcome us, and you're always giving us words of wisdom when it comes to running the affairs of the public. Your Excellency, this meeting today, which is sort of a conference, was mooted several months ago. When this administration came to power, we sat in my office and we were asking ourselves, how do we make this government function? How do we make this government be efficient? And how do we make this government effective in delivery of service? So, Your Excellency, we found that the most critical team or institutions are institutions that have been mandated to regulate sectors in government and in the country. And if we bring them together and also give them some encouragement and support so that they can run their affairs within the legal framework they have been given, within the policies that they have generated, and within the delegated power that they have been given, we know for sure not only efficiency will be seen to be done, but we will see effectiveness, and we shall have a functioning government. And I'm very happy for the last 1 year, Your Excellency, we are seeing a lot of improvement in various sectors. Your Excellency, we had a lot of challenges when it comes to the built environment. Nowadays, we can see NCA and all other agencies around it working very hard to ensure that we have order. We've been seeing a lot of improvement in our environment. NEMA is now taking charge, and we are very happy. We are seeing a lot of improvement also in our roads. NTSA is working very hard, and all those information that we are seeing is because they are working very hard, they are moving very fast, and even the public now know even the statistics that that come out of perhaps issues around regulation in that area. And all other regulators, like in tourism, like in the entire water sector, in education sector, we are very happy, Your Excellency, that there is a lot of progress. As we can see progress, we can also see room for further improvement. We want them to read again and again the laws and regulations that gives them power and authority to oversight respective sectors. We want to encourage them to wait less on instruction and implement more on what the law is telling them, so that we have equity, we have fairness, we have accountability, and we have objectivity when it comes to service delivery. Your Excellency, we always remind them every other time that as opposed to a long time ago, where all the powers was concentrated in the office of the executive office of the president, long time ago, the powers then were dispersed and devolved to these regulators. And therefore, they don't have to wait for anybody. They don't have to wait for a circular. They don't have to wait for a call. What they need to do is to remind themselves about their mandate and start carrying out and exercising their mandate as is required. So, Your Excellency, I don't have much to say today, only to thank you for coming and to really request you to give us direction, request you to talk to us and speak to the areas that are pertinent, that can make the entire team here build synergy around delivery of service, and more importantly, to make sure that all our responsibilities in our respective sectors are aligned to the Kenya Kwanza administration aspirations and programs and the promises that they give to the people. So, Your Excellency, let me stop there. And before I do that, I want to thank the organizer of this meeting, Dr. Linda Musumba, who has been working very tirelessly. I think we need to clap for her, because I know, Your Excellency, she is not very popular, because she puts a lot of pressure on all of us. But I want to thank her because she's been driving this agenda. She's been building team spirit around the entire space, and I'm happy that we are very clear on where we are heading to, and I am sure, Your Excellency, that in another 1 year, this government will be rolling seamlessly without any hitch, because these people have known and have realized that they are very critical institutions in government. So with those few remarks, Your Excellency, I want all of us to arise and let me invite Your Excellency to come forward and address us. We can clap for the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Karibu, Your Excellency, so that you can talk to these officers. Karibu.
Thank you so much. Okay. You can be seated, please. The Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Honorable Felix Koske, Chairman, or Chairpersons rather, of all the regulatory authorities, the CEOs present, all Principal Secretaries who are gathered here today, the Governor of Mombasa, members of various committees of parliament that could be here as well, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me make my remarks, but I just want to say that we are all delighted to be in this institution. I was telling the head of public service that I didn't know that there's such a good facility here. So even when the acting director was talking about a ceiling that was having problems, I was wondering, we would not have noticed if he had not spoken about it. We are all very comfortable, so we are happy that we are here today. So let me go to my remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to this interactive and consultative conference. I wish to thank the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service for convening us all here today, where we gather with a shared purpose, essentially to review the roles and mandates of our regulatory authorities and agencies against the backdrop of emerging issues. This is a crucial endeavor that requires collective wisdom, experience, and dedication, which we must approach with an open mind, ready to engage in constructive dialogue and exchange ideas for the betterment of our regulatory regime. The regulatory landscape of our nation is the cornerstone of its economic growth, social stability, and environmental sustainability. Regulatory authorities and agencies play a pivotal role in ensuring compliance, fostering innovation, and safeguarding the interests of all stakeholders. However, in the ever-evolving global landscape, the roles and mandates of these authorities and agencies must adapt to meet emerging challenges and seize new opportunities. The impact of regulatory oversight reverberates across every facet of our economy and society, from ensuring the safety and quality of goods and services to safeguarding public health and environmental sustainability. Regulators serve as the guardians of our collective well-being and prosperity. There is no doubt that our nation's progress and future hinges on the strong regulatory bodies. Accordingly, we must be forward-thinking and innovative and breathe new life into our regulatory authorities and agencies. Before delving into the challenges and recommendations, it is imperative to note the philosophical underpinning of the policies and legal framework that governs regulatory authorities. Our policies must be dynamic, responsive to the needs of our society, and aligned with international best practices. Similarly, our legal framework should provide clarity, consistency, and enforceability to enable these entities to fulfill their respective mandates effectively. Our regulatory authorities and agencies are confronted with several challenges that impede the execution of their mandates. These range from bureaucratic inefficiencies to resource constraints, from regulatory capture to technological disruptions. The hurdles are enormous. The rapid pace of change in technology, finance, and healthcare sectors poses unique regulatory dilemmas that demand innovative solutions. Moreover, lack of coordination and coherence among regulatory bodies sometimes leads to duplicity of efforts and wastage of resources. This is a state of affairs that cannot be allowed to continue. Ladies and gentlemen, currently, our regulatory landscape comprises a staggering 78 state corporations functioning as regulatory authorities and agencies. Perhaps this number could have grown. The maintenance of support and governance structures for these entities incurs substantial costs, often burdening the treasury. And when we say the treasury, we actually mean the taxpayer. This financial strain can inadvertently lead regulatory bodies to prioritize revenue-generating activities over their primary mandate of regulatory oversight. Instead of focusing on safeguarding citizens and ensuring collective sectoral regulation, they may become overly preoccupied with collecting licensing fees and income-earning projects such as real estate ventures. It is evident that we require a more proactive and forward-thinking approach to address this challenge and explore practical solutions for streamlining our regulatory framework. It is also necessary to be blunt and address the elephant in the room: regulatory overlaps and duplication. This is a real problem for which we must find a solution, because in addition to the complexities posed by varying regulations at the county level, enterprises across our nation are confronted with a maze of conditions, requirements, fees, charges, and levies imposed by multiple government agencies and regulatory bodies. This may require tough decisions to be taken to give effect to the merging of certain regulators. As an indication of the magnitude of the problem, for instance, the manufacturing sector, where institutions such as the Kenya Bureau of Standards, the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, and the Departments of Weights and Measures all assert their authority over aspects such as labeling and inspection. This overlapping mandate often leads to confusion and inefficiencies for businesses striving to comply with regulatory requirements. Let me give another example. The food and beverage processing industry faces a similar challenge, with regulation spanning across multiple entities like NEMA, county governments, the Kenya Bureau of Halal Certification, and the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Services, KEFIS. Even in the crucial area of waste management, the jurisdiction is shared between county governments and NEMA, adding another layer of complexity to compliance efforts. In the financial sector, there exists an overlap among regulatory bodies like the Capital Markets Authority, the Insurance Regulatory Authority, and the Sacco Societies Regulatory Authority, SASRA. Consolidating their functions under a unified framework would undoubtedly enhance the collective impact and streamline regulatory processes. In the realm of intellectual property protection agencies, such as the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, KIPI, the Kenya Copyright Board, and the Anti-Counterfeiting Agency, all play distinct yet interconnected roles. By harnessing their expertise within a consolidated framework, we can eliminate redundancies and foster a more efficient system for safeguarding intellectual property rights. In the aviation sector, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority is responsible for overseeing various aspects of civil aviation, including safety oversight, air navigation services, and aircraft registration. However, within this domain, other entities, such as the Kenya Airports Authority and the State Department of Transport, also hold significant regulatory roles. While the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority focuses on safety and regulatory compliance, Kenya Airports Authority manages airport infrastructure and operations, where there is often a duplication of efforts and conflicting directives. Furthermore, there is an element of uncertainty in some quarters with regard to which of these entities should oversight training schools, given that their roles are cross-cutting. I am aware that on account of the regulatory environment in aviation, we now have a situation where businesses prefer to have their aircraft serviced in Uganda and as far as Egypt, thus denying Kenyan businesses the opportunity. On this one, I can even emphasize that we have a situation where I have personally witnessed a situation where the Kenya Air Force, which actually boasts of the best engineering people in aviation, are struggling for more than a year to actually get a maintenance license. Kenya Air Force being taken in circles. That speaks volumes. The examples above are not exhaustive, and they are by no means the only instances where there are actual and perceived overlaps. These examples are provided so that we can start a conversation on enhancing the efficiency and the effectiveness of our regulatory authorities and agencies. In doing so, ease the burden on the exchequer and make it easier to conduct business in Kenya, not just for our citizens, but also to attract foreign investments. As we embark on this journey of revitalization and re-energization, let us draw inspiration from global best practices and benchmarks. Benchmarking against international standards of regulatory excellence will help us glean valuable insights and identify innovative approaches to enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of our regulatory framework. Please do not interpret this as a carte blanche to now arrange for benchmarking trips. My intention here is to provoke you to research online using available technology and infuse global best practices into our local regulatory environment. And I can tell you that the head of public service will not approve certain travels because they end up on his desk. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to express appreciation to the head of the public service for taking the lead in streamlining the regulatory authorities and agencies. And in this, I was telling him that to the best of my reflection, and I've been around government for some time, I cannot recollect when regulatory authorities, in particular, were convened to have this kind of dialogue. There are usually other convenings, but this one is a unique one, just focused on the regulatory. I also want to commend the head of public service for one very significant move. The powers of the Inspectorate of State Corporations had been curtailed for 7 years. Remember that. Remember the 7 years of Egypt. Because the previous administration had not facilitated the appointment of the State Corporations Appeals Tribunal, a necessary tool to give effect to the surcharge mandate of the Inspectorate. Under the guidance of the head of public service, tribunal members and the chairpersons were appointed, and the Inspectorate now has the power to surcharge. This power to surcharge is a critical tool in the war against corruption. 7 years. Just imagine. 7 years. People, by design, just making sure an entity of government is rendered dysfunctional, deliberately. As we speak here, as I talk about 7 years there, try and reflect, you as a regulator, if you go into your archives, how long have you taken to dispense with a decision that is required so that a business decision can be made one way or the other? Have you had it for 7 years? Have you had it for 5 years? Have you had it for 3 months? This is a time for us to look at ourselves internally. And don't say, I'm looking at you because I'm pointing a finger at you. If you know there is something like that, this is a time for you to reform yourself. With regard to the issue of corruption, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission recently released the National Ethics and Corruption Survey 2023. The ESCC also provided a template on the common weaknesses and loopholes in MD so that it is not just a verbal communication. Let it be very clear that you have done so. And the way the PSS did it, PSS are the ones to chair those corruption prevention committees in their ministries. We would expect the CEOs of all the regulatory authorities to also chair that particular committee so that we can deal with this corruption issue. The headlines we've been seeing are not good for us. They are not good for the country. It becomes awkward when some of our key development partners are citing this as an issue that is obstructing very strategic agreements that we want to enter into. So please, let's look at that area very, very effectively. I challenge all the agencies to do the same, that is, establish the corruption prevention committees and institute measures geared towards wiping out avenues for corruption in line with the lessons contained in the EAC report and template. The agencies must not be dens of corruption or rent-seeking. They must carry out their core mandates effectively and in the national interest. Ladies and gentlemen, while we acknowledge and commend the efforts exerted by all stakeholders in fulfilling their respective mandates, it is imperative that we engage in candid self-assessment. Are we truly maximizing our potential? Are the practices of our agencies aligned with the national interest? We cannot ignore the possibility that some regulatory practices may inadvertently impede business activities. The World Bank maintains an ease of doing business index, which Kenya has been steadily rising in. You will not be surprised to note that some of the key measures implemented which allowed Kenya to make business easier was getting rid of certain fees and bureaucratic practices, many of which had existed from the 1980s and 90s. Upon examination, it was discovered that regulators often imposed fees, even nominal fees ones, as low as 1,000 shillings for issuing certificates, often merely as a procedural formality. However, the administrative expenses incurred in collecting such amounts, including maintaining infrastructure and staff, sometimes surpass the total revenue collected. It is evident that this scenario is not unique and likely extends across numerous regulatory agencies. The agencies must consider the ramifications of their actions and procedures on the economy and the ease of conducting business. In today's global landscape, efficiency and economic competitiveness are paramount. Therefore, it is imperative that our agencies adopt a mindset that prioritizes alignment with these principles. It is also imperative for regulators to take a proactive stance in recognizing emerging trends and promptly addressing them to safeguard the well-being and lives of our citizens. I urge all relevant entities to intensify their efforts, foster collaboration with pertinent stakeholders, and implement robust measures to tackle pressing issues effectively. We must critically evaluate whether resources are being allocated to the core functions of regulatory bodies. If funds are being diverted towards income-generating projects at the expense of fulfilling the core mandates, it signals a significant problem that demands immediate attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to propose some recommendations to address the issues at hand during your deliberations. One, enhanced coordination. We must foster greater collaboration and coordination among regulatory authorities to ensure coherence, reduction of redundancies, and facilitation of information sharing. Secondly, capacity building. Investing in the capacity building of the regulatory personnel is paramount. Continuous training programs, knowledge sharing initiatives, and exposure to best practices from around the globe to empower our regulatory workforce to navigate complex regulatory landscapes with confidence and competence. Third, regulatory reform. Agencies ought to embrace regulatory reform initiatives to streamline processes, reduce regulatory burdens, and promote regulatory efficiency. Fourth, embracing technology. Leveraging technological advancements such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and big data analytics to enhance regulatory oversight, enforcement, and compliance monitoring. Fifth, stakeholder engagement. Fostering meaningful engagement with industry stakeholders, civil society organizations, academia, and the public at large, soliciting feedback, addressing concerns, and fostering a culture of transparency and accountability to enhance regulatory legitimacy and public trust. In my role as Prime Cabinet Secretary, collaborating with the Chief of Staff and Head of the Public Service, I undertake to highlight and give prominence to this very noble campaign of revitalization and re-energization of our regulatory authorities. In my extended mandate as the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, I undertake to designate an officer to work with the regulatory authorities on best global practices that will enhance visibility and ensure optimal performance, leading to stellar service delivery to the people of Kenya. I wish to express my gratitude to each and every one of you for your unwavering dedication and commitment to the revitalization and re-energization of our regulatory authorities and agencies. Together, let us seize this moment as an opportunity to effect meaningful change, inspire transformative action, and propel Kenya towards a future of unparalleled opportunity and prosperity. Together, let us harness the collective wisdom, expertise, and commitment in this room to chart a course towards regulatory excellence and therefore national prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, before I just conclude, let me just highlight one or two other issues. I had the opportunity to accompany His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto, to a state visit in India. And we happened to be sharing a table with him and the Prime Minister Modi and the Minister for Foreign Affairs and the Minister responsible for infrastructure and all that space, the two of them. We then had a conversation with the Minister responsible for infrastructure, and he made some revelations that were both shocking but amazing. He said that in the last 10 years of Modi's leadership, they had been able to add another 40,000 kilometers of electric rail to the Indian infrastructure. 40,000 kilometers of electric rail. I was shocked. And in the process, he said they are ready to share with us their applications, some of the things they use in their technology to handle the issue of way leaves. Maybe it's already with the Ministry of Transport, I don't know, but if not, the Indian government is ready to give us this on a pro bono basis. Because way leaves, for instance, which was referred to by both the head of public service and the governor of Mombasa, we have a problem when it comes to how do you deal with the way leaves for roads, power, sewer, you name it. Fiber optic, they converge. And we all know what happens. When they converge, people come at different times. They dig a hole or a trench, they disappear. Another one comes, digs another one, disappears. And there's no coordination. And then others are harassing the Ministry of Lands. I saw Nixon here telling him that we have not been compensated. So they said they have a way of having, once you input the data, you are able to focus and quickly capture where the way leaves are, and from there you can make a forward attempt, divert that, and avoid this expense of compensation, which we know was the primary cost escalator in our own railway construction in this country. So we have an opportunity. We can do it. And it means that regulators must talk to each other, including the county governments. We must also look at ourselves. There are other uncompetitive trade practices. Transfer pricing. We have a situation where within the financial services, there are some people who may look aside when people deny Kenyan investors an opportunity and they get into a transfer pricing mechanism with a foreign investor. Rather than investing that money here, they want to take it away through unfair trade practices. The regulators must step forward and deal with this. We have a situation where we here maybe have been complicit in creating monopolies. Monopolies are not good for an economy. Monopolies are not good for pricing. Monopolies make life expensive for the ordinary citizen. Some of us here have been delaying competition. You have made it extremely difficult for competition to move forward in this country because you are protecting a particular player. So you are giving him an advantage of becoming a monopoly, and you have the chance of inviting competition. Competition is what will bring prices down. So as regulators, are we complicit in giving an undue hand advantage to one or two players and denying proper competition in our economy? And if we deny competition, investors run away. we don't create the jobs that we should be creating. So, can we also have an opportunity to inwardly look at ourselves in those matters? Am I sitting on a mining license for too long? And in the process, you're not allowing competition in the mining sector. Am I sitting on facilitating people in a blue economy and therefore making it difficult for others to come and process and invest in the blue economy to provide competition and jobs because I'm hoping to give an advantage to somebody? These are the fundamental questions that we ought to ask ourselves as regulators. And I'm sure if we answer ourselves honestly, we shall be able to transform this country in the direction that the president wants. Some of you may have been there when he called the heads of parastatals in Nairobi, and I don't even have to repeat his concerns. Those of us who are there can recollect the seriousness with which the president spoke to this whole space. It turns out that the biggest public debt or pending bills, the largest constituency, is the parastatals constituency, which holds about 83% of the pending bills in the economy. So we all know. And he was very harsh. So let us not let him down. Let us not let the people of Kenya down. Let us pull together. So let me now say thank you to you all. If I may have appeared harsh, please bear with me. But may your deliberations be fruitful and our endeavors be blessed with success. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinct pleasure and honor to declare this conference officially open. Thank you all, and God bless you all. Asante.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, for those wise remarks. And in the interest of time, our sheer numbers is a challenge to management of time, the sheer numbers. So in the interest of time, I want us to do things in this order. As we escort His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Head of Public Service, and the Governor of Mombasa, I want them to be followed by the Principal Secretaries. There's a photo session outside. As soon as the PSS are out, the chairman should be next in line. Then we have the last session with the CEOs. So please, Principal Secretaries, let's prepare to accompany His Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary. Then we have a photo session in that section.